AutomationEdge is building delightful workplace experiences. You can quickly map your business or IT processes to AutomationEdge workflows with its innumerable pre-built actions or steps. Hi, I'm Seema from AutomationEdge Professional Services. In this video, I will display the modified JavaScript step for building JavaScript code or expressions. Let us begin. Let me first describe the modified JavaScript step. It is a step in the scripting category for Process Studio workflows. The modified JavaScript step provides a user interface for building JavaScript code or expressions. It provides an easy-to-use development environment. It contains a left navigation pane listing scripts, constants, functions, input and output fields. A JavaScript pane to write and edit your code and insert constructs from the left pane. A fields table containing a list of variables from your script to output as fields. Let us continue. The modified JavaScript allows creating multiple scripts. You can set a transform or an active script. You can set a start script to execute before processing any data rows. And you can set an end script to execute after processing all the data rows. The modified JavaScript step is not a row generating step. Hence, it cannot be the start step in a workflow. An input step must precede the step. Now let us go to AutomationEdge Process Studio to see the modified JavaScript step configuration options in details. I'm in Process Studio. I have created a blank workflow, modified JavaScript. Let us drag and drop a modified JavaScript on the canvas. Let us double-click to open the configuration options. To give a meaningful description of the configuration options, let me give the step a context of a workflow. Let me cancel for now. The modified JavaScript step is not an input row generating step. Hence, let me precede it with a row generating step. Let me drag and drop a data grid step to begin the workflow. Now let me connect the data grid step to the modified JavaScript step. After the modified JavaScript step, let me add an output step, that is text file output step. In the data grid step, I have added meta fields containing student information, that is first name, last name, math marks, science marks, arts marks, and the graduation date. And in the data field, I have provided the corresponding data for 8 students. Let me click OK. In the text file output, I have configured to write to an output file in the current workflow directory. Let us cancel for now. I will first explain the configurations of the step and then I will demonstrate it with sample code. Now let me show you the modified JavaScript configurations. The step configuration is divided into 3 main sections. The first section on the left is the JavaScript functions pane. It provides a tree view of available scripts, constants, functions, input fields, and output fields. The first is the transform scripts. It displays the list of scripts you have created in the step. By default, it creates one script, script 1. The next is the transform constants. It contains a list of predefined static constants that can control the data rows. You can assign these constant values to the trans_status variable. Let me first describe the continue workflow. When you assign continue workflow to the trans_status, that is the transaction status variable, it includes the current row in the output row set. Now let me describe skip workflow. When you assign skip workflow to the trans_status variable, that is the transaction status variable, it excludes the current row from the output row set and continues processing the next row. Finally, error workflow. When you assign the error workflow to the trans_status variable, it excludes the current row from the output row set, generates an error, and does not process the remaining rows. To use these constants, you must first set the transaction status variable to continue workflow at the beginning of the script. Otherwise, the Microsoft JavaScript step ignores any subsequent assignments to the trans_status variable. I will display the use of these constants later in the demo. The next is the transform functions. It contains a variety of string functions, numeric functions, date functions, logic functions, special functions, and file functions that you can use to create your script. To add a function to a script, simply double-click on the function and it appears in the script pane on the right. You can also drag a function on the scripts pane to the location where you wish to insert it. Besides the functions in the navigation pane, you can also use the JavaScript functions not included in the list. So the first is the string function. As you can see, it provides several out-of-the-box functions like date to string, escape HTML, escape XML, index of, initcap, lower, lpad, ltrim, number to string, rpad, and so on. The numeric functions tree has several JavaScript numeric functions like absolute, ceiling, floor, string to number, and trunk. The date functions has several JavaScript date functions like date add, date difference, get day number, month, quarter, string to date, trunk, week, year, etc. The logic functions has several JavaScript logic functions like is code page, is date, is empty, is number, is regex, etc. The special functions contains a mix of utility functions like alert, get environment variable, get process studio variable, get variable, append to file, set environment variable, and so on. The file functions tree has several functions to do simple verifications or actions related to file or folders like copy file, create folder, delete file, file exists, is file, is folder, and so on. The next is the input fields. It displays the list of inputs coming into the step. Now in this case, we have a data grid step containing the first name, last name, math, science, arts, and graduation date. So we can see all the input fields coming to the step. Just like functions, you can simply double-click input fields to insert them in the script on the right-hand side. And the output field section lists the output fields from the step. So far, we have not defined any output fields. During the demo, I will define the output fields in the fields table below. Once I define them, it will appear in the output fields list. Next is the JavaScript pane on the right. This is the section where you can write and edit your JavaScript code or expressions. You can insert constants, functions, or input fields from the navigation pane on the left by double-clicking on the node you wish to insert, or you can also drag the functions onto the JavaScript. You can also write your own JavaScript code, define your own functions, or even use JavaScript functions not included in the list on the left navigation pane. On the script tab, you can right-click to open a context menu with the following commands. You can add a new script. You can add a copy of the current script in a new tab. You can set it as the transform or the active script. The current script is already a transform or an active script. You can set a script as a start script. A start script executes before processing the first row. You can set a script as an end script to execute after the last row processing is complete, or you can remove the script type to not execute the script at all. However, this will not remove the script tab. To remove a script, you can click on the cross and choose to delete the script tab. Let me add a new script. You can click on the cross to delete the tab and confirm deletion. Note that one script will always be present. To rename a script, you need to go to the left navigation, click on the script to delete it or to rename it. Now below the JavaScript pane, you can see the position. It displays the line number and position of the cursor on the script above. Then there is a compatibility mode checkbox. The modified JavaScript step engine supports the version 2.5 and 3. If compatibility mode is checked, JavaScript works like it did in version 2.5. The new version should be used if possible, so preferably keep it unchecked. The next is the optimization level. You can set the value 1 to run the JavaScript in interpreted mode, or you can set it to 0 for no optimizations, or you can set the optimization level to any number up to 9. 9 performs the most optimization with faster script execution, but compiles slower. The default is 9. The last is the fields table to output your JavaScript variables you defined in the script above as fields in the workflow stream. The first is the field name. Here you need to enter or type your variable names that you define above. You can rename the fields, provide the new name in the rename to field. You can select the field type from number, string, date, boolean, integer, big number, and so on. You can specify the length. For number, the total number of significant figures in the number. For string, the total length of the string, and for date, the length of the printed output of the string. In the precision, provide the number of digits after decimal. Specify the precision for number as number of floating point digits. Precision is not used for string, date, or boolean. In the replace value field name or rename to, you can select from yes or no. If you wish to accept the rename to value, then you need to choose yes from the list. You can click on the Get Variables button to retrieve the list of variables from your script so that you do not have to manually type the variables in the table one by one. And you can click on the Test Script button to test the syntax of your script. So I have given you an overview and a description of the modified JavaScript step configuration options. Now I will demonstrate it with sample code. First, I want to write a JavaScript code to init cap the first name and last name. That is, I want the first letter of the first name and last name in capitals. So let me declare a variable first name with first name in init cap. So let me go to transform functions, string functions. Let me double click or insert the init cap function, and I wish to replace the variable. I want to init cap the first name, so I can double click the input field first name. Similarly, I will declare a variable lname containing the last name in init cap. So once again, let me insert the init cap function and replace the variable with the last name. Next, I wish to generate a full name by concatenating the first name and the last name. So let me declare a variable full name as the variable first name, and I wish to concat. First of all, I want a space between the first name and the last name. So let me insert an empty space plus the last name variable. Now I'm using the JavaScript function concat, although it is not in the list of transform functions. So as mentioned earlier, you can use the JavaScript functions in your code. I want to return these variables as output fields from the JavaScript step. So I can type the variable names one by one in the field name, or let me click Get Variables to get all the variables. Now in the rename field, let me rename it back to the first name and the last name, and replace value field name or rename to. I need to provide yes. To rename the fields, click OK. In the text file output, in the Fields tab, let me click Get Fields. So it gets all the fields in the stream. For now, I do not wish to display math, science, arts, graduation date. So I will just return the 3 fields. Click OK. Let us execute the workflow. And you can see the first name, last name with init cap and the full name. Let me continue. You can also define custom functions in your JavaScript. So let me define a function called calculation, and I do not wish to pass any parameters to this function. I want the function to return the sum of the math plus science marks plus arts marks. And let me close the braces. Next, I wish to declare a variable total marks as equal to the result of the calculation function. I also wish to declare one more variable, rounded total marks, as equal to, this time let me select a numeric function, floor, and in the variable let me pass the total marks. I wish to add another variable, grad date, as equal to, now I'll use a date function, string to date, and in the variable let me pass the input field graduation date, and in the second variable let me pass the format for the date, that is YYYYMMNDD. So if you need more information about any function, you can select the function in the navigation pane. You can right click and view a sample. And finally, I wish to declare one more variable, convocation date, and this time I wish to use a date function, date add. Now you can right click again and view a sample. Now in the date add, the first variable is the date on which you wish to work. The second is the string, that is the type which represents the value to add, which can be Y for years, M for months, D for days, W for weeks, and so on. And the last is a numeric value, that is the value to add. So if you mention Y1, that means you want to add 1 year to the date, or you want to add 4 months to the date, and so on. So let me close the sample, and in my case my date variable is the grad date, and I want to add year by 1. Let me add the semicolon. Let us add the new variables to the fields table below. So let me copy the total marks and add it to the list. I wish to copy the rounded total marks and add it to the list, the grad date and the convocation date. I do not wish to rename them, so I'll leave the rename to field blank. Total marks is a number field. Rounded total marks is also a number. Grad date is a date and convocation date is a date. Now let me add a new script. From the left navigation, let me rename it to start script. I want to set it as the start script. I will write a code where I have declared a variable file path. I have used the special function getEnvironment variable to get the value of the internal current directory, which is the current workflow directory. I have declared a variable file name to get the file path and add the file name, and I have declared a variable check where I have used the file exists function from the file functions category to check if the file exists. In check, I have also replaced the file : / with a null value, and I wish to alert the file path, file name, and check. Let us click OK. You can add more scripts. Now if you wish to call any script from another script, you can use the special function load script from tab. For now, let me comment it and let me delete the item 0 tab to confirm deletion. Let us click OK. Now let us execute the workflow. When you execute the workflow, it first executes the start script. Hence you can see the file path. Next it alerts the complete file path including the file name, and then it shows an alert that the file is present in the file system. Click OK. So after the start script, it executes the data rows, and you can preview the rows. You can see the first name, last name, math, science, arts marks, graduation date. You can see the first name and last name with init cap, the full name. It has calculated the total marks, rounded marks. It shows the grad date in date format, and it shows the convocation date. You can see that it has added 1 year to the grad date to calculate the convocation date. So I have tried to cover the different function types, the different script types in this video. Now there's one last thing I wish to show. Let us go back to the modified JavaScript. Now I wish to use the transform constants to control the data rows. I do not wish to output the rows containing the first name Jane. So if I wish to use transform constants, the first thing I need to do is to set the transaction status to continue workflow. Secondly, I wish to write an if statement, that is, if first name is Jane, then the transaction status is to skip the workflow. Let me click OK. Let me save the workflow. Let me run the workflow again. So it displays the first alert from the start script. It shows the file location. It alerts the file path, and it alerts true, that is, file is present in the file system. It then executes the data rows. Let us preview the data for the data grade step, and you can see that Jane is present. Now let us go to the modified JavaScript step. As you can see, Jane is not present in the output, and also in the text file output, Jane is not present, since we had set the condition to skip the row for Jane. Thus I've tried to cover several unique features that you can use in the modified JavaScript. Let us recap. We saw the modified JavaScript step, description, and configuration options. You can jumpstart your digital transformation journey with Automation Edge's conversational AI and hyperautomation platforms.